just happened to come to my mind right now. So don't worry if you think, hey, there's other valves, and indeed there are, but as we just jumped to my mind. Ileocecal valve. Okay? You can also notice here that there's a structure hanging off the cecum, and usually it's positioned on the back of the cecum. The artist decided to draw it in the front, that's fine and dandy. But it's usually retrocecal, okay? And it's positioned in the right lower quadrant retrocecal. It is known as the appendix. More appropriately called, as listed it as vermiform appendix because it's worm-shaped. That's what it is. Vermiform appendix. We actually have other appendices in our bodies too, but that's the vermiform, okay? Sometimes that, as you probably know, can become inflamed, appendicitis, and burst appendix, end up with what?
Yeah.
Well, that'd be the end result, yes,
Oh.
but potentially for peritonitis, because this could burst. And how come? How come that's a big issue? I mean, what's in the cecum? What's in the? Because they're connected. That's open there. Okay. So what's in the cecum is the same stuff that's in the appendix. So what's in the cecum is a problem? Bacteria, absolutely correct. Because once you get into the colon, okay, essentially it's all waste. Essentially, okay. So that's actually kind of a good point. Is we've hopefully extracted as much as we can, nutrient-wise, from the stuff that's traversed even way up here, all the way down here through the stomach, through the duodenum, jejunum, ileum, okay? And now we get into this. We've extracted as much as we can, with a few exceptions, okay? But essentially everything right here in the cecum is waste. Okay, the few things that go on in the colon we have to recognize, but essentially it's waste. So if you open up the appendix, you're really opening up the cecum, okay, kind of, because they're connected to each other. They're open, okay? So what's in there is the same that's in there. And that can be very, very bad. Peritonitis is very bad. Inflammation of the peritoneum. People die from that very quickly. Okay? All right, so as we go from our colon, okay, from our cecum, you can probably appreciate, now this is a nice picture-perfect view of how the colon is positioned in a person that is not a real person. Okay, a textbook presentation. In a real cadaver, and even us as we stand here, you don't appreciate, and you won't have this, but you have ascending. You have a bend here, which we'll call the right colic flexure. We have transverse colon, left colic flexure, or splenic bend if you want, and descending and sigmoid. Now that's all very pretty and nice, okay? But in reality, it's not as pretty as nice as this at all, because you'll even find this transverse kind of hanging down lower like this over everything else. So when you open up a cadaver, or maybe someone opened you up by accident, I don't know, however, in surgery, whatever it is, it isn't picture perfect like this inside your abdominal and pelvic cavity. Things aren't as the book describes, because things do get out of place. Now, do keep in mind that there's going to be some semblance of order in there, okay, because you have mesentery that keeps things in place. All right. Maybe you recognize that in the cat when I said, hey, go ahead and pull out the intestines, make them loose and free. That's the mesentery that will hold things in place. But you can kind of rotate them and twist them like that. That's what we can have happen too. We don't want twisting or any type of problem with that, but sometimes you can have twisting, or called intussusception, twisting of the intestine, which can happen. We don't want that, okay? That can be very, very bad. But anyway, this is a nice picture-perfect presentation, and for anatomy lab and things, I do present picture-perfect presentations. So you have a ascending, you have a right colic flexure, a nice transverse, okay, instead of having one hanging way, which does hang down, and a lot of people would hang way down here like that, okay? Nice transverse, nice splenic flexure with the descending, and the sigmoid, which is the S-shaped portion down there, okay? And that's the colon there. So, what questions do you have so far, at least on the alimentary canal? This is the two we have to explore, and we've kind of got the gross anatomy somewhat hammered out, okay? And that's all fine and dandy, but when you get now away from gross anatomy, then you have histology, which is very important, because we'll look at the different cells that we see here, what their products are, and what their products do, okay? We'll come back up, of course, to the taste buds and investigate the taste buds, what kind of taste sensation we can detect, which one has the lowest threshold, okay? Also then we'll make our way down into the stomach and look at things known as gastric pits, okay? And the glands that are associated with them called gastric glands, and the cells that make up the gastric glands. And then we gotta figure out what their products are, what their products do, and then we'll leave our stomach and go into the duodenum, and not any gross study, but histological study, figure out what the cells that are there, what their products are, what their products do, because once the gross anatomy is done, then you have the histology to look at, which is study of our microscopic structure. So we'll leave our duodenum, jejunum, explore what goes on in there, and the cells that are there too, even with the ileum. We'll explore that in some detail too, what cells are there, what goes on in there, and of course with the colon. Okay, earlier I said that most product that is in the colon is waste, and that's true. But the colon does some very important things for us. Anyone have an idea what the colon might do for us? It does do water absorption. Water absorption. Anything else?
Condenses waste.
It does condense waste with water absorption, so we make it more solid. There are resident flora in there that produce several things for us. Vitamins, like what? Yes, and? None. B and K, vitamin B, some vitamin B's, and also K vitamins. K vitamin and B vitamins is what the resident flora produce in the colon. Okay, the colon also does a few other things too that we'll come to a little bit later as we go on. So I think that might be a nice overview of the GI tract. Any questions so far about this? Anything that is confusing so far? Again, sometimes I just have a discussion and just talk about it, and then maybe the next time we meet, I'll go through the slides individually so you can kind of fill in some blanks where you're at. But sometimes a nice overview can work pretty well too. And I know some of you didn't write anything down. I think it's the best way to do it, at least on the first day, just to listen and figure out what direction this is going. And sometimes I do chapters a little bit different. I did this with the respiratory system too, and I just talked as well. But I'll do this also with the GI tract. And again, recognize GI tract, alimentary canal as I'm using these terms, so you're not confused with gastrointestinal. Okay? And so when we come back on what, Monday, right? Monday, I won't see you tomorrow, like I said, I apologize for that, but maybe you can take advantage of the time off and do something good and not evil. Okay. All right. All right, so there you go. We'll come back with